All
We're
right.
live! Woo!
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum, everybody!
I know we stopped kind of talking about the podcast, and then we just sort of, or not podcast, webcast, and we just appear in our feeds for you guys. So you guys should know every Wednesday at the same time we're showing up. Dr. Medea Saeed of Holistic Mom MD and myself, Yvonne Maffei of My Halal Kitchen, every week here to talk to you about ways to optimize your health. And this week we're talking about
Clean protein! Yay!
So last week we did fish. We're not doing fish this week.
No, we are going to be talking about quality over quantity of the protein that you should be consuming and how to prepare it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you've got chicken and beef, and I've got eggs over here. So
awesome. Perfect.
I eat eggs almost every day. I know people are kind of concerned about cholesterol. Do you want to bust that myth or tell me?
Oh, absolutely. Because remember, like all of these forms of protein is just one piece of the puzzle for your overall health and wellness, right? So it's just, so whenever we should be eating, for those that are just joining us on, thank you guys for joining us. Please click the like button, click the share button, invite your friends over, ask us questions. We're all here for you.
We're going to be answering questions, so go ahead and ask those.
Yeah, absolutely. And so protein is just one piece of the puzzle. And I think right now, Yvonne, we are overdoing it on the protein. I think that we eat way too much protein.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are on the trendy keto diet. Isn't that like quite a bit of protein? Or I'm not into the trendy diet.
Absolutely. And there is, I mean, for specifically with the keto diet, now there's a right way to do keto and there's a wrong way to do keto. And the wrong way to do keto is to eat only meat and nothing but meat. But studies have shown that when you consume a diet more protein than plant-based, you actually change your microbiome to being more inflammatory. So we want to make sure that you don't. Yeah, that balance is important.
Yeah. Absolutely. How do we get that? How do we achieve the balance? Is it like meal by meal, or is it like on a daily basis, 24 hours? Like, how do you achieve harmony?
Yeah, so just by exactly what you're saying is just like, I think everybody is different, and what works for one person, it maybe not works for the others. And so to really hone in on what works for you, for me, I know I have to eat like 1 to 2 meals a day and I'm good. And if one of those meals is just mostly vegetables and the other one is just a little bit of protein, I feel energetic. I feel amazing. So it's just all about what works well with your body. But the ones that do like just keto, just meat and fats, that's not a really great lifestyle choice. And remember, we're talking about, yes, it may be great for just, you may see immediate weight loss, but then immediate weight loss is not what we're told 100% after, because what happens is that as soon as you start going back on carbs, you actually gain all that weight back. So it's really important to remember that balance and to realize that this is a lifestyle, not just a fad.
I mean, I always think like whenever I have any protein, whether it's meat, eggs, chicken, fish, I always have to have vegetables with it. I mean, it just kind of tastes better together, but also feels more balanced of a meal, and too much of that protein kind of makes me feel heavy. I think if we all kind of paid attention to how we feel after we eat, we would know our own body type as well. Some people maybe need a little bit more meat, less meat, or proteins, I should say. But I know from myself when my clothes are not fitting, or something feels off, then I need to adjust. I mean, I think after a certain age, you got to also get to know your body better. And when things change, so paying attention, being mindful, being conscious of ourselves is really a key to that, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to see what works best for you is, again, really important. And I have a children's book coming out, And I talk a lot about this even for kids. So this is something that, and I'm going to put the link. Is it okay if I put the link? So then people realize that this is something that you can incorporate with your children and your families, that our kids don't need to be eating tons of protein. Like when you have like a huge piece of steak and then even just all, not good.
Well, I always bring up this Mediterranean diet because that's what I consume the most. But I think, it's famous for a reason, right? There's this moderation of meats and protein like you find in the Mediterranean diet, and there's a lot of vegetables. So there's a lot of water content, and there's the broths and the meats and chickens, but the actual meat isn't always so much. And I think that quality actually is very satiating.
We're going to talk about next. Absolutely.
Rather than just this huge amount of meat that isn't good and poor quality, and then we end up demonizing beef, for example, or demonizing red meat, for example. And why? It's really, I wish we talked more about quality over quantity.
We need to do that, because remember, there are lots of huge movements out there, vegan, vegetarian, but that's not for everybody. So again, your body needs protein to heal. It's critical for the immune system. It helps with muscle synthesis. It's like appetite control. It actually even like helps with your gut lining. Remember we talked about that? And then so again, quality over quantity. And so it's so amazing that our bodies need protein in order, eating protein really increases that metabolic fire and ability to burn calories and reduces your appetite to feel full. But unfortunately, 24 million antibiotics are used every year in the United States, and mostly given to animals. Where 24 million antibiotics are used every year in the United States and are mostly given to animals. That's about 70% of our antibiotics that's given just to speed up the growth of our animals.
Yeah.
Now that's ridiculous. Yeah. We gotta get rid of it, because we're feeding them junk. And you are just, I love what you said last time. You are what you eat feeds.
It's true. It's so true. I mean, if you think about it, when animals need to have antibiotics, then there's something wrong with their living conditions as well. Right? Like if you're going to farmed fish, and most farmed fish is going to have antibiotics because they're living really close together. Well, that's not the natural way, for fish to exist. Or if chickens are having antibiotics, then if you ever have gone to a poultry farm, there's some really good ones, and there's some really, really, really bad ones. And if they're living in close quarters where they can't even move their bodies, and they're just given, antibiotics to control disease, then aren't they living a little too close together? I mean, I think we have to look at the living conditions, the holistic cycle of the animals we are eating. And that includes what they eat and their living conditions. So it's very, very important. I always say this from the halal perspective. We can say, oh, meat is halal. It's right. It's not pork. But what about the biha part? What about that? Giving
the animal the rights that it needs.
The animals, the tayyib part. We look at the biha. Okay, how was it, processed, slaughtered, and all of that. But that's only a part of the story. The story begins when it, becomes, when it's born, and that life cycle that it's, how is it living, the air it's breathing. I don't think we really pay attention to that. If you think about it, it's a pretty self-centered way of living. We're just thinking about me, but you really want to think about yourself. Think about the animals.
Think about the animal. Absolutely. And it really disgusts me. And I have to again, this is a huge point. I know that me and you are on the same page about.
Time before the end.
Exactly. We do not, specifically with Muslims, if we're going to talk about that, we need to speak with our dollars, because it is very difficult to find an organic zabiha. Very difficult, because Muslims unfortunately don't care about, they only care about this. Nobody is caring about the animal. And I know there's large brands.
we want, everything to be cheap, but what are you feeding yourself? Is it worth it to have, a boatload of food and then none of it's really good for you? No. I think people need to understand nutrient dense food will fill you. It will satiate you. It will satisfy you. And you will not need a lot of junk. You will just need that good quality food. Like if you could talk to your great grandparents right now, they'd probably tell you the same thing. They didn't die of starvation. They actually lived pretty well and probably pretty long off of quality food.
Absolutely. And that's what we have to bring back, because these, yes, the chickens are Zabiha, but they, did you guys know that they're feeding them? It's not tayyib. They're feeding the chickens GMO feed. One of the largest chicken companies is all GMO feed. And what is GMO feed? It's packed with pesticides and chemicals. And GMOs are packed with pesticides, and these are antibiotics. So you technically, it says antibiotics, they didn't specifically give them antibiotics, but they're actually getting these pesticides and these herbicides through the foods that they're giving them. They're giving them in the GMO feed. And actually a lot of that GMO feed, so let me just go and talk quickly about what GMO is, because I think that's super important. Because
Please do.
Yeah, so GMO is so glyphosate was an industrial cleaner. This industrial cleaner came out into the ground one day and it killed off all the vegetation. It annihilated everything. And then Monsanto's like, oh, wait, it kills it all off. So let's go ahead and use it. They changed it to now branded it to their function, so to their needs. And now when they sprayed it on everything, but it still killed the plants. Oh no. So now what we got to do is we got to go genetically engineer the seed. And when you go in and genetically engineer the seed, guess what happens? Now you put the seed in the ground and they can spray even more pesticide on this.
Wait, go back. Because what people don't realize is that the insecticide is injected into the seed.
Yes.
So you can look at the plant and say, oh, I won't put any fertilizer or insecticide on top of it. But already it's too late because it's already in the seed. So we've already lost before we started.
And not even just that, they've genetically engineered it to specifically corn that they give to all of these livestock.
Yeah.
They've injected them. So when it actually grows, it leads to something called Bt toxin. So it actually formulates its own pesticide. So through Bt toxin. So when the bugs try to eat it, it actually destroys the bug's gut lining inside and out and kills the bug immediately.
So what does that do to us? You are what
you are, absolutely. And another big piece of the puzzle, because they're like, oh, the glyphosate was, Monsanto's like, oh no, it's not going to affect us humans. It's going to affect. There's a pathway called the Sugarmate Pathway, and the Sugarmate Pathway is the way that it kills off the bugs. But guess what? Yes, we don't have that pathway, but guess what does have that pathway? Our gut lining. Our gut microbiome has the Sugarmate Pathway, so therefore that Bt toxin actually destroys our underlying gut lining just by the way of the Sugarmate Pathway. So
it's Frankenfood.
It's Frankenfood. And now we're giving it to these chickens and we're like, oh, there's no antibiotics in them. Bull. You guys are feeding it GMO feed. Did you see how big these chickens get?
It's not normal.
It's not normal because
we have a problem in the US. We have a problem with small things. We have a problem with imperfect things. But if you look around the world, why is food photography such a big deal? Why do people love pictures of European markets and food from different villages around the world? Because it's like something you don't see anymore, right? It's like, wow, that was from before. That was like the way things used to be. There's some nostalgia attached to that, right? We kind of would desire that. It's an innate thing to say, well, things aren't perfect, and that's beautiful. If you go around the world, chickens are typically not, unless they are being produced just like you're mentioning in that horror story, they're kind of small. But that's okay. I think people have to wrap their brain around that's okay. Let things have their natural cycle. I love buying from farmers who say to me, I might not have uh, chicken at this point, or turkey or lamb or whatever, because they're not pushing the animals to breed. They're just waiting for that natural cycle. They're not putting profits before people or profits before animals. You really need to know. And today, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's not impossible to find people who are producing those kinds of things. And if you don't support them, then they go away because they're also a business. They can't
Absolutely.
survive.
And that's what we need to do. We need to start supporting these people.
Yeah.
So, and our dollar does speak languages. So we need to make sure that it goes, if we can, as Muslims specifically, and as a humankind, if we can say, no, I'm not going to spend on the way that we're treating these animals. I'm going to only spend on the animals that have been treated with respect and dignity, and those have been pasture raised, and those that are giving the nutrients that they're naturally supposed to be given, like the foods that they're supposed to be eating, like cows are supposed to be eating grass, period, right? It's not supposed to be eating. This is why when you go for meat specifically, you want to make sure that you eat the grass-fed, grass-finished meat, because that's what the cows are supposed to be eating. Everything else is grain-fed. A cow is not supposed to be eating grains.
For people who don't know, when you say grass-fed, grass-finished, a lot of times what people do in the cattle business is they might graze the cattle on grass, but before they go to slaughter, they will finish them on corn. So they get a little bit heavier, and then they're actually costlier at market. So, there's different reasons they do it, but I have been to farms where, well, not just farms. Actually, if you watch some videos of, I think it was Food Inc. that first showed it. You really need to watch the film where they're inside the cow's stomach. Where
yes! Oh my gosh!
It is so sad that we allow that to happen. Those animals actually suffer. It's not like they're just eating food and they're enjoying it. That corn tears them up inside. It is so horrible for them. So
we should not be
spending
money for that. Nope.
I don't. And after that's the thing. We need to really keep educating ourselves about this, and having a conscious, like when we put our head down on our pillow at night, can we honestly say, I've made good choices that actually don't harm the environment and don't harm animals, and I'm not party to that? Because once you know better, it's like when you know better, do better if you can. But I think it comes down to a choice of feeling like, I don't really need that to live. I don't need that to be happy, right? We don't need that abundance of cheap food, of that much meat. I mean, you can live on less, and it's not about sacrificing your happiness or living with less to just for no reason. I mean, I think it's about letting go of some of those things that make us feel like, I don't know, I can't really grab the right words for it, but it's something very psychological in our minds, because
Absolutely.
We're so attuned to food being very cheap in the US. And that's kind of the problem, But
and that's what we need to change.
When organic is in higher demand and better choices of food where animals have been treated better are in demand, then those prices can come down too. I think it's just something that, like you said, we vote with our dollars.
We have to vote with our dollars, because this is not going to change unless we say that this is not the way. And as humans, we should be thankful to these animals for, sustaining us, right?
Yeah.
And then how are we going to do it no. I mean, it's just
they're a sacrifice for us. They are a sacrifice for us. And I think, take your kids to the farms and show them the animals. And it's not meant to say, never eat them. It's that why in almost every culture in the world, they didn't waste a thing on an animal. They didn't waste a thing, like the head, the tail, the skin, everything is used. That's the respect for the animal, actually. That's the respect, that its life was not in vain, right?
Absolutely.
Life, and when it was time, it nourished the family, and then its life kind of went on, right? Everything is used. So that's the real respect, and I think we've lost that, for each other, for animals, for the environment, and maybe this kind of stuff can really bring back that bottom line, which is respect, in the form of consciousness.
Yeah, and then voting with your dollars.
At the end, right? Usually we go on our soapbox at the very end of our.
I know, but thing is, like, this is just something that was so important, because I don't want to just go into this topic without really discussing the ethics of this.
Yeah. Ethics and why the quality is so important.
Yes, and because I know you got the eggs there.
Yeah.
Right? Let's start with eggs. Ooh, yum. And poultry and eggs are such a great source of choline that helps brain health and detoxification.
Yes.
Full of antioxidants, minerals, vitamins, especially vitamin D, protects your heart health against heart disease. So great. So
great source of vitamin D, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I thought, I was under the impression that you couldn't get vitamin D through food.
No, you can.
You can. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what's interesting about this is that I've also read, like, free-range chickens, the reason why their yolks are more golden than the ones that are not free-range is because they're getting sunshine. So the sunshine actually turns the yolks golden. And that's my marker of a really good egg. So I'm still in Turkey for the next couple of weeks, and then I'll be back home. But the thing I relish the most when I'm here is going to the farmer's market and getting the eggs. They're kind of small, if you can see, they're not very big. And they always give them to you in a bag. I don't have the bag here. They always give them to you in a bag. But usually these farmers have big baskets of eggs from their home chickens, and sometimes they have feathers on them and everything, and it's just beautiful. But the thing is that when I open them, and I'm going to break one open, they are very, very golden. So whenever I'm, back home, I kind of cringe a little because the eggs are never that golden. They're usually like a pale yellow. So that kind of bothers me a lot,
Absolutely. And I mean, you can even buy, for those that are in the States, in my house, I really just focus on the pasture-raised eggs, and you can buy them at Meijer's, and especially if they're pasture-raised organic, that's even better. And you can buy them at any of your local grocery stores. So something that can easily be done, and you'll find some of them. And then there's lots of different, like, let's check this out. Ooh, liquid gold.
It is golden. Can you guys see? I'm not sure how I'm doing this with the computer. Can you guys see?
No. Yep, it's golden.
It's very
all the ones here are pale if we don't. So absolutely, we got to get the pasture-raised eggs. If you can, organic would be the first step, and then pasture-raised would be the next. And what do you do? What is your favorite way of cooking eggs?
So I cook eggs in so many different ways, particularly when I'm here because the vegetables are so nice and fresh. So I do 3 different types of eggs, not first thing in the morning for breakfast, but maybe a little after I've had my coffee or tea, or, I then have a nice hearty breakfast. And what I do is I either saute mushrooms, just in some ghee or some olive oil at the bottom of the pan, and I fill the pan with either mushrooms or spinach. Or Swiss chard, whatever looks really good. But I use that as a base in the pan. I think we did this in one of the other webcasts that we did. But I cook a lot of veggies at the bottom of the pan, and then I break open 2 to 4 eggs, depending on how many people are eating, right on top of the mushrooms or the Swiss chard or the spinach. And I just make a little, with your spoon, you just make a little opening in the pan so the egg yolk gets cooked. But I basically serve that out like it's like a full dish, and you eat that with some olives on the side, some raw cheeses and things like that. But it's just a very filling meal, and sometimes I make that for dinner just because I'm hungry and it's a quick way to get some protein in my life that day. But today, for you guys, what I'm making is I'm making a Turkish scrambled egg dish called menemen. And it has peppers, so whatever peppers you have, green or red, some onion, and some tomato paste, or you can use red pepper paste or both. And you basically just saute all of that in some olive oil, and then you just, throw the eggs in, scramble them up, and that's like it's the simplest like scrambled eggs dish, but it's Turkish style. So that's something really easy, but it actually takes more time than just throwing in the spinach or the mushrooms. So I don't make that very often, but it is a very hearty meal, and it doesn't have to be for breakfast, but you get your veggies in, you can add some garlic to it if you want to, but then you get your veggies and your protein. So I feel like it's balanced. Would you say that's balanced?
Oh, very balanced. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that has everything in it. And that's like an ideal meal. That would be great.
Yeah, I think so too. And sometimes what I do is I'll cook it like this, and let's say I don't scramble it, but I just throw the eggs in sunny side up. I will use that as a sandwich later on or in a wrap, because like, let's say I can't finish it all, and then I'll just stick it in some kind of wrap and then make a quick sandwich, and that's great for lunch or on the go or work or whatever.
That's what I do for my kids. I stick it in like cassava flour wrap, and I'm like, okay, that's it. You guys, here you go. Dinner's done. Yeah. Breakfast is done.
Right. And it's very filling, and you're not using like, deli meats with nitrites and stuff like that. It's just really, very simple and very healthy and very homemade and natural. And I think eggs are like my favorite thing here. So I wish I could take these home with me. I wish I could. But the thing is, a lot of people have, backyard chickens. And I think that's a thing that's growing in the US as well.
I know my brother has backyard chickens. So now.
Oh, great. So are you getting some eggs from him?
Yes. Well, they're still small. I get it from my brother-in-law, who also has like neighbors that are getting it. Yeah, so you get like pastured organic chicken.
Yes.
Delicious.
Yes. And for those of you who are out in Chicago, if you go, if you take like some nice drives into Wisconsin, right across the border of Chicago, there's some beautiful farms, and even people who have, they have their houses, and then in the summertime they'll usually have signs out that will say, eggs for sale. And I have found blue eggs out there, people who have like South American chickens and things like that. And just, take a nice drive and go get yourself some fresh eggs and support some local farmers, or, people who are just homesteaders, or they, have their own chicken coops. It's just fun, but it's healthy, to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So exciting. So exciting.
So I'm going to make this while you guys are talking.
Yeah. So then I will, you want me to small you or take you off?
Yeah, either one is fine. Yeah, okay. That's perfect. Okay.
Perfect. Yay! So let's go ahead and talk about the other different types of protein, because remember, there's poultry, right? And in my house, my kids love chicken. So it's one that you could do so much stuff with chicken, and it's an excellent source of protein, and it's just so powerful. It's poultry has your B vitamins, your choline, your minerals like selenium and sulfur and iron and phosphorus. The dark chicken meat actually contains vitamin K2, which is really important to tell your calcium where to go. So it's really important. And it has like these natural occurring fat soluble vitamins along with fish. And then they also have anti-cancer properties. But again, same with eggs. We want to make sure that it's pastured poultry and organic poultry, but that they have actually a lot more essential fatty acids. Because unfortunately, today's chickens have a lot, because of all the GMO and they're not pastured, they actually have a lot less nutrients and have more inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids. So this is what's so super important to understand, that our chickens today are not the chickens that they were a long time ago. So a little bit of protein and high quality protein goes a long way, because of the fact that if it's not, then it actually can can do a little bit more harm than good, because now you're thinking, oh, I'm going to lose weight, I could do this. But unfortunately, now it's like, okay, today's chickens are a lot less nutritious and have all of these inflammatory fats that we don't want that in our bodies, in our kids' bodies. So again, if you're not sensitive to it, there are a group of people that can be sensitive to eggs. But if you're not, again, organic pastured eggs and poultry, soft boiled, poached, cooked, low temperature whenever possible. So all great options. In my house, what I love to do is, again, this is what you want to then focus on. Lots of vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats, is because if you do all of these really clean foods first, you actually give your body the nutrient-dense ingredients that it needs to live and thrive. And remember, we got to get rid of the fake food, eat real food, and really focus on clean vegetables, clean protein, and healthy fats that are all part of your meal. So for a treat, this is what my kids will get for a treat. So even with chicken, what I would do is I would just, you can actually coat them in, I use chickpea flour or lentil flour, and with the, and I'll just dip it, and then I'll just use a little bit of oil, just like, not even like shallow fry, just very limited oil. I'll go ahead and just cook the chicken in that, in the flour. So now here my kids have like KFC chicken, but they do it with a little avocado oil. But now with organic pasture-raised chicken, and now it's delicious. And I always include like a coleslaw and some broccoli sprouts. Remember, broccoli sprouts are so super important. They actually have 100 times more sulforaphane, which helps your body detoxify, than the regular broccoli. So I always include broccoli sprouts in my kids' meals. And this is like a sample meal that they'll get up, throw olive oil on top of that. And this is vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats with the olive oil. Great, delicious, and nutritious. So that's really easy there. The other thing that I want to also now discuss is that taboo meat. Oh my gosh, people are like, what are we going to do meat-wise? So meat, is, again, it's always been that gray area, which there's great research on like both sides of the spectrum. And there's one thing that's for certain, that we all need to focus on quality, not quantity, just like we've been talking about for all the other proteins. And the quality is so important because remember, when you feed these animals, grain-fed animals, they're actually more inflammatory to humans. So all of these studies that you're seeing that meat is not good for you, you have to see that, okay, are they actually using pasture-raised meats or actually grass-fed, grass-finished? And you'll notice that a lot of times what happens is that those studies do not include meats from animals that are pasture-raised. So those grain-fed animals are more inflammatory to humans. So yes, when it comes to like, meat being inflammatory, those, when they're grain-fed, when you have the normal non-grass-fed stuff, that is more inflammatory to humans. And studies have shown that there's really no link between heart disease and dietary fats. But the meats that come from grass-fed animals is full of micronutrients. So these grass-fed actually are filled with beneficial fats like omega-3s and has an optimal ratio between the omega-6s to omega-3s. So for those that don't realize and know that when you have more omega-6 than omega-3s, your body is actually inflammatory. So it can actually weaken the immune system. But when it's not, so when you have when you have pastured and grass-fed protein, there's actually the perfect balance of omega-3s to omega-6s that lowers the overall fat content. It actually has higher absorbable form of vitamin E, higher in conjugated linoleic acid, and it lowers the overall inflammation and rebuilds the healthy cells. Then switches. So we need to make sure that we switch from grain-fed animals to grass-fed meat and dairy products. Because remember, even that, when you switch from grain-fed to grass-fed, that grass-fed can actually lower the women's risk of breast cancer by 60% compared to those with lower levels of CLA. So again, super important to focus on these foods and to avoid eating farmed meat whenever possible. Yes, it may be cheaper, but again, these farmed foods are also packed with hormones and antibiotics and GMOs and pesticides. And even there were some studies that showed that, I mean, Yaman, this is crazy. There's some studies that show that they actually feed candy and sugar to these animals to make them fatten up faster for mass production. Now, how crazy is that?
That's what the corn is for. The corn finished animals.
The corn finished, and also they're starting to feed them sugar and candy.
And so
these animals, that's ridiculous. Like there were some studies that show that they feed them all this junk food and sugar and candy just to fatten them up and increase them for mass production.
I feel like that's animal abuse. That's animal abuse all the way.
That is animal abuse. And so again, it's so important to avoid all of those artificially pumped proteins sources and really work for grass-fed sources. In my house, I love ground beef. So I find ground beef is really easy to make. But what I do in ground beef is I just don't leave it ground beef. Ha 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 ha. I actually stick in shiitake mushrooms. I'll put in, again, the broccoli sprouts. So here you can just buy easy broccoli sprouts, or you can grow them yourselves. So broccoli sprouts are also super important. And then here we have is your cauliflower rice. So I actually put cauliflower rice into my ground beef, and the kids cannot tell the difference because it actually gives, I mean, already the mushrooms has like a meaty type of flavor. Then we have broccoli sprouts are also really important, and they just sort of just melt into the meat. But now you have a lot more vegetables, and you're hiding it in your ground beef, and that's what I do for like my lentil pastas and all those fun stuff. So that's amazing. And then I think the next thing that while Yvonne's still working on that really quick is that there are vegetarian options, right, for those proteins. So the vegetarian types are like hemp seed protein and chia seed protein and pea protein, lentils and beans, all great if you can tolerate them. But you really can't get all of your protein from plants alone because as you age, you need a little bit more protein, and plant protein contains lower levels of leucine, which is compared to animal protein, which is an amino acid. So which we need. So zinc, but the beans are packed with like fiber and zinc and iron and folate and potassium and magnesium and so much more. And they've actually done studies where lentils and beans have been shown to, shown that fruit, vegetables, and beans were all associated with a decreased risk in heart disease. So it is great, but some people cannot really tolerate them. And they also actually feed the good bacteria. They act as like resistant starches to feed our good bacteria, and may even help. And may not be able to tolerate. So some people actually may not be able to tolerate that due to like the lectins and the phytic acid that's in there. So specifically with your starches, you want to make sure that you can soak them and sprout them and ferment them and pressure cook them, and then obtain organic and non-BPA cans as best as possible. And then I know for a lot of vegetarians, they also use some soy that can be really good. And soy can be good for some people, but then again, most of it's genetically modified. So I would try to avoid that. And then the soy also contains like elevated levels of enzyme inhibitors that helps to prevent from absorbing nutrients, but fermentation also can solve that issue. And then remember we talked about like beans a lot. So peanuts is also another great source of protein, but actually they say it's like it's more of a legume. But for some people, it can actually have like a fungus. It can be a little bit moldy for people, and depending on how they're growing. So again, I would just try to keep these two, like the soy and the peanuts, on a minimum. But then the rest of them, my kids love lentil pastas. That's what I try to do. We do lentils on a regular basis in my house, again, as a source of protein. So sometimes I won't do that. I'll just give them the lentils. But it's what the problem is that when we start putting lentils, because they still have carbs in them, when you put lentils with the rice, now you have carb on top of carb on top of carb, and that just raises your blood sugar level way too high. So again, super important.
Very important fact.
Yes. And then remember, yeah, because vegetarians do have deficiencies. They have deficiencies of vitamin K, omega-3s, B12, vitamin A, iron, and even calcium. So again, it's so important to incorporate all of that into your daily routine. And then there's even like tons of different protein powders. I know that's another question that I get asked regularly. What about protein powders? And then for protein powders, there's so many different types, but I like to look for ones with just like 1 or 2 ingredients. That's it. All the other ones have like lots of other stuff stuck in it, and the quality may not be the greatest. So that's why I try to do like either egg white protein powder or beef collagen or beef gelatin, that are all super important. Even hemp seed protein powder, pea protein powder if something's tolerated. But again, rotate. I always try to have people rotate their proteins to avoid developing a sensitivity to that. But so that was my little spiel. Can I bring it back to you?
Sure, I'm almost done. See, while you were talking, I almost finished. So basically all I did was cook down the onion and tomato and pepper in some olive oil. And then I added,
that was so fast.
So fast. I'm not patient most of the time. So I like quick things. And then I added a little bit of this crushed red pepper. This is just red peppers that are beautifully and gently crushed. And then some kekik, which is a Turkish oregano. I guess we call it oregano. Some people call it a thyme, but it's oregano to me. It gives it a really very earthy flavor. But you can add whatever you want, parsley, the coriander, whatever you like. So basically, you just cook this all down, and then I added a tablespoon of tomato paste. And now I'm just gonna add the eggs. I broke 3 eggs, and I like to add a little bit of water to my eggs to make them a little bit fluffier. You could do maybe like a coconut milk or whatever milk you want, but I like to do that just to kind of give it.
Ooh, I've never done that. So just by adding a little bit, does it have to be cold water, hot water?
Just what regular tap,
Awesome.
temperature water. So then I just throw it in, and you have to work fast when it's scrambled, because if it sits too long, it's going to be an omelet. So basically, you're just kind of, swirling it all around, and that's it. It's just gonna become a scrambled egg. So you see, it's already almost done. See how fast that is? But it takes the longest to just chop everything. So, and then I'll serve it with some fresh parsley on top. And it's so tasty with some olives, some cheese, some bread. That's it. Very nice meal.
Oh my God, that was so easy.
Yeah, super easy. So by the time you're done talking, I actually went slower because it was going to be finished. So, and I didn't start right away. So it's even faster than that. Yeah. So look how they're really nice and fluffy. I think that's from adding the water to it. You can tell. Yeah.
Wow, delicious.
Yeah. So I'll just serve this up, and then I'll put the recipe on myhalaLkitchen.com so everybody can have it. But that's it. It's done.
Oh my gosh, so easy, so awesome. You guys, again, super easy, super nutritious, super delicious. She got the pasture-raised eggs. So these now have so many so many vitamins in it that's going to help nourish your body, optimize our immune system, specifically during this time when we need our immune system to be tip-top shape as best as possible. Thank you so much, Iman, for doing that. That is awesome. And so let me just go ahead and see if we have any other questions. What are some local stores where grass-fed meat is sold? So I have to tell you my secret. My secret is that Jewel Osco has the actual grass-fed organic beef that comes even on sale So you can even get it to like $2.50 a pound even if you wait for it. Like they do amazing sales. And it's like grass-fed, organic, and has a halal symbol on the back. Now, how awesome is that? So that's what I try to do if I'm gonna get like organic. If I'm gonna try to do that, that's where I try to go. Otherwise, there's everywhere. All your nutritious. If you start asking your butchers, I want grass-fed. If there's enough of you asking for it, then they're gonna start to get it. So we need to start incorporating our butchers into this. So then they can, so we can start, supporting the Muslim industries. But with this, Muslims first got to get on board first.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you can go to farmers markets and find some nice organic meats. They're not mostly going to be halal. But, that's how things happen. If they get enough people to inquire and that they're actually going to buy it, then
absolutely.
But you have to actually buy it.
You got to actually buy it. So the other ones, where do I buy broccoli sprouts? I mean, you can. Oh, that looks so delicious, Yvonne. So yummy. Beautiful, beautiful. So broccoli sprouts, again, I get it at Whole Foods. I get it at, that's mostly where I get it from. The thing is, there's great recipes out there that you can start to create your own recipe. You're making your own at home, your broccoli sprouts. And then, awesome, those are the protein questions. And then there's other questions that if somebody has any other questions, please let us know. What kind of fruits and vegetables should we avoid? I don't think there are fruits and vegetables you should avoid that, we should eat as many fruits and vegetables as possible. But awesome. If you guys have any other questions, I think we're good. I think we gave you a lot of great nutritious information. We got like some great ways to cook lentils even. I mean, we do that, and we do a lot of Indian Pakistani. We cook a lot of lentils. There's lentil soup. I cook that in broth. Oh, it's like the best. So we would love to know what your guys' ways of cooking are, like what kind of things that you guys love to cook. Please let us know. And awesome. Where do you Yvonne? Yvonne, where'd you go? There you are.
All right. So
I think that's a wrap.
Just cleaning up here. Okay, so I think we answered some questions, and we did our soapbox at the beginning of the webcast.
So that was good.
Tapped out now. So I'll put the recipe up on my website, and then next week we will see you guys at the same time. And next week we're going to talk about, do you remember? Teas? I think teas. I really want to talk about teas.
Yes. We are talking about...
I really want to talk about those medicinal teas because they're so awesome for good health.
Teas.
Good, because I've got a lot of great resources over here I want to talk about. So
awesome. We're going to do teas next time.
All right.
See you guys soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.